One of my buddies in college back in 2010 told me about Bitcoin. I had 600 Bitcoin back then, and I sold them all when they hit 20 bucks a piece, and I thought I was rich. I thought I had all the money in the world. I just see so much potential in it. I think it's a lot easier to look at or to invest in or to read than maybe some more traditional investment places.
A pastor turned tech leader and a millennial churchgoer explore the intersection of technology, culture, and faith, equipping you with innovative strategies to support you as you live out your calling, lead your churches with confidence, and step into the future together. This is the Give It Up Podcast. What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Give It Up Podcast. Today, I'm actually really excited about this episode because it's a very unique perspective that we believe the church needs to hear more of. Because Vance and I, all the time at Overflow, get the question from people, well, are there actually people out there that want to donate crypto and want to donate any non-cash assets at all? And today, we have a resounding yes for you because we have brought into the podcast an exclusive interview with a crypto donor. Both of our friends. This is Taylor Hyatt.
All right, this is now an exclusive interview.
Exclusive.
I feel good about that.
It's a crypto investor sighting.
Right. I'm here. They do exist out in the real world.
Yes, and we're pumped to talk to you today, Taylor, because you're going to, I feel like, revitalize a lot of people's spirits when it comes to giving. And we hear a lot of church leaders saying recently, man, like giving's been down, like market downturn, it's just been really deflating. But then we have you who has a completely different perspective, which I really want to dig into. And so I think before we get into you giving crypto and that being part of your generosity angle, I want to talk about how you got into crypto to begin with. Why would someone want to invest in a volatile crypto market?
Yeah, funny story. One of my buddies in college back in 2010 told me about Bitcoin. I had 600 Bitcoin back then, and I sold them all when they hit 20 bucks a piece, and I thought I was rich. I thought I had all the money in the world. It was like, it was like $18,000 or something, or $12,000. As a college student, I really was rich. Like I was loaded. We went out. We had a great time. But crypto has been this thing for me that now I've obviously gotten back into it, took a break for a couple of years, and I just see so much potential in it. And I think it's a lot easier to look at or to invest in or to read than maybe some more traditional investment places. I don't consider myself much of like a stock market kind of person, right? If I want to invest in the stock market, then I'm probably going to put it in like a mutual fund, ETF. I'm going to call a broker and have them do it for me. But crypto is something that I can do. I can get in, I can get out of, I can do all these kinds of things. So I really enjoy it, and I see a lot of potential for the future use of it as well, which is one of the big reasons why I am in crypto.
So that's so interesting, Taylor. You said you connected with it more than the stock market. Can you pull on that thread a little bit more? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the thing is that, okay, so if you look at the stock market, you look at any company, you look at any shares, right? So let's look at somebody like Tesla, right? Tesla shares can go up and down based on what Elon Musk tweets or how many cars they deliver or how many cars they make or how many pre-sales they have for the Cybertruck or whatever it is. And it's like, I have no idea how to track that down. I know you can. I know there are people who are experts at that, right? With crypto, what really drove me into it at the beginning is that it's dependent on the people. It's dependent on the market, right? If Ethereum goes up or down, it's because somebody's decided to develop something new with it. Somebody's come up with a super cool new use case for it, or people see a future for it, and it's based on people's perception. And I actually think it's a lot easier to read people's perceptions of something than it is how many cars somebody's going to make or how many laptops Apple's going to ship out.
Wow. So stock market, crypto, on some level, you're saying they're both based on perception, but you can read the crypto side of it more than even the stock side.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's because, like, to be completely fair, like I'm a target market for crypto, right? I'm a young guy in America, to be frank, and I have some disposable income. And so it makes sense for me to be looking at it, me to be reading it, me to be, reading into it. In the crypto world, we get into Discord and stuff like that, and we're chatting with other people who are doing this. And the thing is I'm in Discord channels with other people who, they have so much more money than me. It's not even silly. And they've been doing it for longer than I have. And to try to talk to somebody on Wall Street who's been there for 20 years, that's impossible, right? And so it's this collaborative thing. I think it's this community-based thing. I think that people in general push it which way it's going to go for the time being, just because there aren't a ton of regulations and that kind of thing around it. But I enjoy it more. I think it's more applicable to me.
Wow.
That is so fascinating.
Taylor, the church, from our personal experience, I would say the church more so than the rest of society is very scared of crypto. So much so that it's controversial in some spaces. Can you speak to that and kind of talk about misconceptions and something that you wish the church genuinely knew about crypto?
Sure. People don't like anything they don't understand, right? And that's the main point with crypto. And that's why if you watch the news, you'll see all this, basically just talking bad about crypto and all this kind of stuff. And when you go into the church or you go into really anywhere, people just don't understand it. Why would we go online and use Bitcoin? What even is Bitcoin? Is it a physical coin? Do I keep it in my wallet? Like, people just don't understand it. But I would relate this. And people may call me crazy for this, but, back when there were horse and buggies, everybody said, well, why do we need cars? We already have horses and buggies. We don't need this, right? When the internet came out, when Amazon came out, right? People were like, well, we have Barnes and Nobles. We have Borders. Like, why do we need to buy books online? It doesn't make any sense, right? And I think it's just people are scared of what they don't understand. And I would love for some people to just do a little bit more research, and you don't have to get as crazy deep into it. But for me, honestly, also when you talk about giving and, you talk about giving to the church and stuff, there are also tax benefits. There's so many different things that come into play that I think if people just knew and people understand, then I think it makes a lot more sense to me personally.
One thing that you said, Taylor, that was interesting is you like crypto because you can go in and out really quickly. Right. And so to your point about, who said we needed cars when we had, horses and buggies, in hindsight, what cars has done is it's revolutionized transportation. How do you see crypto revolutionizing money, finances, financial technology?
How far down the sci-fi route do you want me to go here?
Let's go.
Right?
Let's give it up for the sci-fi route.
When you start talking about like how far it could go, everybody, you say the word NFTs, right? And everybody just immediately thinks of like dumb cartoon drawings of dogs or monkeys or whatever it is, right? And granted, that's where, there was some popularity a year or two ago. But NFTs, these non-fungible tokens, one day they could be used for deeds of houses. They could be used for deeds of cars. Anything of value could be assigned an NFT. And if I want to sell Vance my house, he buys the NFT for me. And now, hey, guess what? The house is Vance's, right? I think that there's so much possibility with the thing that really Bitcoin and crypto really established, right, was this idea that the blockchain, okay? I'm not going to try to explain what the blockchain is, but it's essentially a ledger, okay? It's a receipt book. That's really all it is. And what it really established was the fact that it can't be broken. It can't be hacked. It can't be changed. It's there, and it's adopted and kept track of by hundreds of thousands or millions of people, right? And so it's always being checked on to make sure that it's right. And so when you start looking at that, I think that there's also, you hear all about all these crazy things of corruption, and there's so many different ways that you could go with this. You hear about banks failing, you hear about Silicon Valley Bank, you hear about all this different kind of stuff, right? And I'm not talking bad about banks, but at the end of the day, if everything was kept on a public ledger that every bank ever does, a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen. It would be caught before it happens, right? And I just think that it's an emerging technology that we don't even really know what the full use case of it is yet, which is why people like me are investing in it, because I think that there are a lot of use cases for it and I want to get in early.
It's incredible.
I love that. I want to talk about, because you're pretty innovative, Taylor, just all the way around. It's clear just from how you think about investment strategies, which then leads me to the question of, you had the idea to, what if I give crypto? And for some context, from my knowledge, is Taylor goes to my church. And so Taylor has investments in crypto and actually approached our pastor and said, hey, can we create a way where I can actually give crypto instead of cash or credit? To which the pastor said, oh, yeah, if that's something you want to do, let me look into it. So then a platform for giving the crypto became available, and Taylor gives crypto instead of cash and credit card. And, we share this story with church leaders often, because there's a couple different things to think through and pull from this story. Is one, these people are out here, but I'm thinking of the person who is like Taylor, but one, may not have a relationship with the pastor, may not have a friendship with them.
Right.
So they wouldn't know who to ask for this opportunity, nor two, would they know that they even had the option to give crypto. So Taylor, I just want to ask, what made you think to start giving crypto?
Particularly at the time, right? The first time that I've given in crypto several times now. And the first time I gave in crypto was 2021, which 2021 was when all-time highs for Bitcoin was hit, all-time highs for Ethereum were hit. To be completely honest with you, most of my net worth was in crypto, right? And so to get that out into cash, right, I have to it's easy to go crypto to crypto, and it's not hard to go crypto to cash, but I have to send it to Coinbase or something like that, and then I have to sell it for cash, and then I have to withdraw the cash, and then I have to wait for the cash to get to my bank account, and then I have to write a check or something, particularly if it's over any amount, if it's over $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is, it becomes very difficult to just send that online, because then your debit card wants to decline it, or whatever it may be. And I don't own any checks. And then am I supposed to call the bank and be like, hey, can I get your wire transfer information, and then either put that online or go to the bank and be like, hey, I need to do a wire transfer? And it's it becomes difficult. There are barriers. I'm a business guy, right? I started a bunch of companies, all this kind of stuff. And one of the big things with whatever product I'm marketing or whatever product I'm selling or whatever it is, I want the barriers to entry to be as low as possible, right? As low as humanly possible for somebody to get into that and do whatever I'm trying to get them to do, right? And so at the end of the day, churches survive on giving, on tithing, on donations, right? And so if there are barriers to entry for somebody to give, then you could be losing out. And I don't want to have to go through all those steps to be able to give. I want somebody to send me, a 16 or 20 digit wallet address, right? Which is what you do in crypto. And I copy that, I put in the amount, I hit send, and then I'm done. And it's easy. That's all that it takes. And I think that 20 or 30 years from now, I think that will be how everyone works, right?
Wow.
That's where the technology is going to go. But right now, we're still holding on to the way banks worked in the 1970s before the internet existed. And it makes it weird to send any amount of money more than $50.
Yeah, Coinbase just did this ad. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it puts you in the tension of everybody's frustration with the way that money moves, right? It puts you in the tension of when you overdraw on your bank account and then they do another fee on top of that. It's if I don't have money in my bank account,
just don't.
Why are you charging me extra that I don't have, right? Why do I have that overdraft fee? And then there's the situation where somebody's trying to send somebody money and it says it's going to take 3 days or 5 business days or something like that. And it's this really good ad that builds the tension of how ridiculous it is still today around how money moves. And I thought that was so interesting, Taylor, that you brought up the inconveniences of the transfer, but not even the tax disadvantages of doing everything that you just said. So
Right.
not only is it harder for you to do the transfer, withdrawal, liquidation, all that type of stuff, but then you get taxed on top of it.
Yep. So it's
You know?
it's crazy. If I go from, if you go from one crypto to another crypto, you're supposed to pay capital gains tax, right? If you sell that crypto for cash, you're supposed to pay capital gains tax. All like there could be, I know somebody who they had some like weird crypto coin that's like not on Coinbase, right? Like Shiba Inu or something weird, right? And like they don't even have that on Coinbase whenever they were talking to me about it. And so they swapped this coin over here for like Ethereum, right? That's supposed to be capital gains tax right there from what they originally bought it from. And then they sent the Ethereum to Coinbase and cashed it out. And that's supposed to be another taxable event. Like the change was minimal, so it doesn't really matter. But like all of these things start coming into play. Whereas if I just send crypto, then I get to write it off and I don't have to pay anything. It takes away from what I have to pay. And no, it's absolutely huge. I mean, convenience factor all the way around.
Totally. And, something interesting about when the church or a 501c3 liquidates it and maybe turns it into fiat to use it for good, they don't have to pay capital gains on it at all because they're tax exempt as a 501c3 organization. Are you a unicorn, Taylor? Are there more crypto investors? Are there more crypto givers like you? Are you a unicorn right now?
I personally know several others.
Hey.
They're definitely, I wouldn't say that they're super common, but I think one of the big things is that, obviously I'm friends with you guys. I know what you guys do. I talk to people about Overflow all the time. And then I've had people come up and ask me because it's gone around, the friend circle or whatever that like I'm a crypto guy. And so they're like, oh, what's this about? How does it work? And pretty much every single person that I talk to, I'm like, look, here's what you need to do. I don't even care if you just go and buy like USDC, which is a stable coin. The price isn't as volatile as other cryptos, right? I'm like, I don't care what you do. If you're giving to a church or ministry or somebody that you believe in, then like put it in crypto, let it sit there and then give in crypto because it's so much easier. Like it's just so easy. And so I think that's all, once again, I think it's where technology is going. And I think that I have a lot of opinions about the church and especially the local church and how a lot of local churches do things and different things like that. And I don't like not talking bad about any of them, but I also think that a lot of times, particularly when we start talking about the giving issue, right? A lot of churches are so concerned with how they're going to pay bills or pay salaries or whatever it is for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? And not making any plans for what's going to happen for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road from now. And I think the people that are making the investments or opening the doors for longer term stuff are going to be the people who come out and win and reach people and do what they need to do.
So good.
Wow. So Taylor, you're talking about a stable coin now, which makes me, beg this next question. Because you're proving the point, hey, we're out here. And even just speaking that right there, showing that you think of this as a long-term play, and you actually think through, am I investing into a church or an organization the same way? Can I trust that they're actually going to make long-term plays the same way I am with them? So I love that. And I want to hear about your mindset during the, quote, dips that happen.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you talk about investments or anything else, don't risk more money than you can lose, right?
Yeah.
And you can't always win. I mean, I had a lot of money in a stable coin that failed a year and a half ago, or I guess almost a year ago exactly is when it failed. And so you can't be everything, you can't win everything, but I think that that's the same thing with that's it. Like that's not a reason not to use crypto. Because the same thing happens with cash. It's happened with like 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 banks or however many it has been in the past 3 months, right? Where the government has to step in anyway. But I think that when I think about the dips, I'm a weirdo. Okay, that's what I'll say. Because when you talk about giving, and I think that giving is also a topic that not enough people talk about openly.
Yeah.
And people like shy away from it. And I think that that's really, really silly because there should be no shame or guilt in being generous.
Yeah.
And that's how people should treat it. And so, when you tithe and do all that kind of stuff, that's amazing. But I think that, God calls for more than just a tithe. He calls for first fruits. He calls for offerings. He calls for all these different things in the Bible that it talks about. And just living generously as a human, right? And generously can look however which way you want it to look, whether it be time or talent or treasures. It can be all of those different things. But particularly with money, I'm actually the person who I want to give more when I'm in times of need. And so when there are big dips or for the past couple of months, I've kind of been in between businesses. We shut one business down. I'm starting a new business and I don't have a ton of income coming in, right? And I want to give more because I know what my faith does and I know how my faith works and I know what I believe about God. And I know that he's going to honor that. And I know that I want to think about this. Like this is okay, right? To go this deep into so faith, good. Right? Okay, please. Perfect. So think about this, okay? There's this principle in the Bible about sowing and reaping, okay? And when farmers sow, okay, is the field full of luscious, ready, ripe crops for harvest? No, it's not. It's empty. It's barren. It needs to be plowed. It needs to be worked. It needs to be weeded so that those crops can sprout. It needs to be watered. It needs to be fertilized. It needs all of these things so that it can grow into crops so that it can be harvested. And so I look at times of dips, whether it's the crypto market going up and down, whether it's the economy going up and down, whether it's my own personal, I got big bills come out or I'm in between businesses or in between jobs or whatever it is. Those are the times when it's planting season. Those are the times when the field is bare and something needs to go there so that it can be sowed, so that it can be taken care of, it can be tended to, it can be weeded, it can be watered, it can grow into something that when times are good, I can harvest. And so that's what I believe. That's how I think. And so I am a weirdo in that, and not many people think about that. But then I talk about it and people are like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense, right? But yeah, that's how I would treat dips.
I think you're a leader, the way you articulate is weirdo, but I think you're a leader. And it's actually so profound, this conversation. And I believe it's going to bless a lot of pastors and senior church leaders that specifically listen to this podcast because they're hearing from you, Taylor, who is an incredibly first principle type thinker. Even just the way you talk about crypto, right? My insight, my takeaway from why you invest into crypto is not because of the hype cycle. It's not this grift. It's not kind of this scammy thing, but it comes from a first principle truth is, hey, are we all okay with the way that money's moving right now? Right. Or do we think that's the future, that things take 3 business days, 5 business days? Do we think it's the future, that this is all part of these legacy systems and that money and the way it's transferred and moved is not transparent, is not on a public ledger, is not safe and secure in that regard? I like the way you think about dips, right? Is that, hey, yeah, there are some crypto companies and maybe even some currencies that were fraudulent, but there are many companies that have been fraudulent in the publicly traded stock market as well. And even the place where people flee to safety in a big bank, a top 20 bank, those are failing as well. And then even just your first principles around giving, right? That, hey, it doesn't matter if I'm in abundance and actually, especially in need. If I want to live a life of generosity, I need to toil that practice. I need to toil that principle. And if I sow in generosity, I'm going to reap in generosity. It's just a law. It's a law if we believe in the Bible. It's a law that is written biblically. And so I just, I think a lot of this conversation will help people break the myths of what they think about when they hear Discord channels, when they hear,
Right.
all these intimidating things. Another way to think about Discord channel is community.
That's all it is.
It's the democratization of being able to talk about these investable assets in a way that's never been available before. Like you said, you can't just text a Wall Street person that has disproportionate information about a stock.
Right.
But you can text the community about Ethereum. You can text the community about Bitcoin and have access to it the same way I have access to it, the same way a rich person has access to it, the same way a middle class person has access to it, et cetera. Right. And that's what you're saying, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, it is some, I mean, I think that what's really interesting is that, as crypto goes, I guess, more mainstream, right? There are going to be different things that come about. There are going to be more regulations. There are going to be all these different things, which totally makes sense. And it helps people to not lose money, to not put themselves in bad or dangerous places, right? But I think that when we look at what generosity is, and I think that when we look at being able to give, and I think that I genuinely don't even know, but like if I'm using Overflow and I'm sending crypto to a church, right?
Yep.
What's the turnaround time for them to get the cash?
Seconds.
Okay. Whereas if I try to take my crypto, put it in a Coinbase, and then get it to cash, and then send it, and then it ends up being like a 2-week process, like a 10-day process.
Easy.
Right? And, I don't think there are many situations where a church necessarily needs, a bunch of money within seconds. But what it does do is I have served at our church. I've been an associate pastor. I've done all these different kinds of things. I've heard people say, oh yeah, we're going to give this. And then they're like waiting for a bonus to clear, right? And then they got to wait a check. And then we got to see if the check is going to go through or bounce or whatever it is, right? And it's not that we're, doubting people. It's just the way the financial system works, right? Of where when we talk about something being able to be sent in seconds, what that does is it gives you a sense of security, right? It gives you a sense of understanding that, oh no, we actually have this money. We can use it for what we need it to use it for. We can make plans on how we're going to invest in a new building or a new camera to live stream or a new, whatever that church or organization might need in that moment. It gives this sense of peace. And I think that is such an important thing for churches to look at, of how many times has somebody said, oh yeah, we're going to give it to you. We just got to wait for this to clear. And then we'll write you a check and then it'll come in. Why? If you're going to give, why don't you just give it now? Like, I don't know. That's my own perspective.
I love that. I mean, you're obviously speaking our language here. And, Taylor, I also just want to, for anyone listening, I just kind of want to share that Taylor's heart is so for empowering the kingdom and pushing ministries forward. And he really believes that God has called him to create businesses that do that. And so because you have this unique perspective, because you aren't like, God's called me to ministry and that's my only lane I must stay in, right? You consider creating businesses your ministry. So I would love to hear if you have a final word of encouragement that you would love to impart to everyone listening to this.
I think that everybody has a ministry, and I think that for every single person, that ministry begins with generosity. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you've been called to do. I don't care what God has told you to. I mean, I do care what God has told you to do, but it doesn't matter. It starts with generosity. Wow. And I think that can look like a lot of different ways. I think that it can manifest in a lot of different ways, depending on who you are and where your talents and skills and abilities lie. But God does want to use you. And, I talk about being an associate pastor, and I spent a year praying and talking to people and reading the word about whether I should stop working in the corporate world and go to Bible school and go into ministry full time, right? Wow. And what came out of a result of that year of praying and talking and doing all these things was I felt like the calling of my life was not to go into ministry and speak on a stage or do whatever it is. I felt like my calling was to be able to fund the kingdom, right? And be able to empower and help ministries, churches that I believe in, people with good causes, and the man on the street that needs something to eat for lunch, right?
It's so good.
It goes from everywhere all the way up at the top, all the way down to somebody on the street. And I think that if you have this filter that you look at the world with, of regardless of your situation, regardless of where you're at, if you look at it through this filter of generosity, and how can I give, how can I serve, how can I do things for other people, rather than what can I get, what can I take, what can I have, then God can really, really, really use you for incredible things. And I wish that more pastors would say that from stages in front of people.
My
I wish that more
goodness.
people would give that message, that, it's not about what we can take. It's about what we can give, because we've already been given everything.
And even just sharing that message of generosity, I think a lot of pastors may hesitate sometimes. And I've talked to a few where they're hesitant because they feel like it comes off as wanting to take from people. But it's never what, we want to take from people, but it's what we want for people. And Taylor, you're an example of somebody who is in a local church that is serving his local church, that believes in this. It's been transformative in your life, and you're so convicted that it'd be transformative for a whole generation, for our circle of friends, for our extended friend network. And so much so, you're here on a podcast really talking about it. And I love it. For every pastor, I believe there should be 100 kingdom builders. For every pastor, I believe there should be 100 Taylors that have a mindset like you, because while pastors get the download of the vision for their local community and maybe even their global vision, it's the kingdom builders that we know determine the pace of that vision, that can accelerate things to incredible levels. So we so appreciate you, man. Hey, where can people find you, connect with you? We want to be able to serve you as well. Obviously, this community, I think, can be really catalytic to the type of things that you're doing as well. Kingdom empowerment. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, Kingdom Empowered, any social media, anywhere. Really, our end goal is to just be one, long-term big goal is to be one of the biggest Christian media and content companies in the world, using the internet and using technology the way that it actually can be used, because we have experience in that, building businesses and different stuff. So we're helping people with marketing, we're helping people with messaging, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, come check us out. Send us a DM. I'm the one on the Instagram. So if you go look up Kingdom Empowered and you send a DM, like, it's going to be me responding. So I'm all for it.
Awesome. Well, we'll put the links in the show notes. And Taylor, it's been such a privilege and a pleasure, my man. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for having this conversation, this candid conversation around crypto, generosity, and our responsibility as kingdom builders for the local church and beyond. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Vance, man. You're the one who built the company that actually lets people do this. So thank you to you as well, because you're out here changing the world. Overflow is, and I think that I know you guys are blowing up, and I know so many people are using you, so many churches are, but it's only a matter of time before everybody is. And I'm excited to watch you guys go on that journey, man.
Love that.